I'd like to call the meeting to order this morning. It is April 1st, 2015, 9:30, and this is our regular meeting of the Ottawa City Commission. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Reed.
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen. Sorry.
Present.
Commissioner Dickinson.
Present.
Commissioner Kaler.
Present. Thank you, Carolyn. We do have everyone present this morning. I would like to welcome everyone. We have a full room this morning. Also like to welcome those that are listening on KOFO or anyone that's watching on our Government Access channel. We will begin the meeting this morning with our Pledge of Allegiance, and that will be followed by our invocation, which this morning will be led by our Director of Finance, Mr. Scott Bird. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's always a privilege to be asked to pray, but especially during this week that we refer to as Holy Week between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. And in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, we read that as Jesus was making his triumphal entry into Jerusalem, the crowds cried out declaring him king, and those that would deny that told him to make them stop, and Jesus said, if they do not cry out, even the stones will cry out. Let's pray. Lord God in heaven, we just pause to bring you honor, glory, and praise, thanking you for everything that you do for us, and thank you for reminding us that even nature will cry out, declaring you as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We ask that you be in our presence this morning and guide everything that is done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. We begin the meeting this morning with the consent agenda, and that includes a couple sets of minutes. You have the minutes from the March 2nd and March 16th study sessions, as well as the March 15th regular meeting, and that would also include our agenda. So do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner,
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. So we have approved the agenda and those sets of minutes. Do we have anyone registered today for the public comments?
No, ma'am.
So I will dispense with reading of that paragraph. So that would move us to declaration, and at this time I'd like to give commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider this morning's issues impartially. Okay, so we will move right on into new business and begin with item number 10, please.
Proclamation recognizing April as Fair Housing Month.
April is National Fair Housing Month. Richard Jackson, the CEO of East Central Kansas Economic Opportunity Corporation, ECAN, will accept the proclamation, and the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the Congress of the United States passed the Civil Rights Act of 1968, of which Title VIII declared that the law of the land would now guarantee the rights of equal housing opportunity, and whereas the City of Ottawa is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all, and whereas the City of Ottawa passed a fair housing ordinance in 1976 and updated the ordinance in 1997 and 2000, and whereas the fair housing groups and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development have over the years received thousands of complaints of alleged illegal housing discrimination and found too many that have proved upon investigation to be violations of the fair housing laws. And whereas equal housing opportunity is a condition of life in Ottawa that can and should be achieved. Now therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas does hereby proclaim the month of April 2015 as Fair Housing Month, and expresses the hope that this year's observance will promote fair housing practices throughout the city. Signed this first day of April of 2015 by the Mayor, Linda Reed. And the proclamation had a heading which is celebrating 47 years of fair housing. So Mr. Jackson. You can have the podium.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for this proclamation. It's something that we do every year. And I guess when I say every year, it's really more than every year, because we're reminding people of the the federal, the state, and the local act as it regards to discrimination. And after the events the past few days around the country, I think this is pretty clear and understandable. And basically, the law says you can't discriminate against anyone for whatever reason. And if you do so, then these are the penalties. I'm happy to see that the city has an ordinance. Not many cities have their own ordinance, so we're a little bit ahead of most communities. A lot of what we get through the year are people asking questions: what can I do? What I can't do? And a lot of times it's because people are ignorant of the law. They don't know that the federal law, there's a state law, and certainly a lot of people would be surprised if you mentioned that there was a city ordinance directed towards that. So I think that's good. Might suggest, and I think we've talked about it in the past, and it seems like everybody gets busy with things that they have to do. But city manager, I think, had mentioned it one time to Wendy, and we had talked, but we've never done anything about it. We need to make that a goal for next year. Is to do a workshop on fair housing and landlord-tenant rights. And so I think that's one thing that we can do in the coming years to help to educate people and provide a little bit more information. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I appreciate that. I did not pick up the updated agenda. Our second proclamation, Carolyn, does that fall right here in this area?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, no, there's one more proclamation. You may think this is an April Fool's joke, and it's really not, but because we're going to have Commissioner Jorgensen read this, and it's no insinuation, honestly. But this is a proclamation about distracted driving. So we're going to have Commissioner Jorgensen read that. He may have some comments as well.
She's referring to, I got several of the people up here on April Fool's joke, telling them that I got a speeding ticket out here on First Street for going 40 in a 20-mile-an-hour zone, but I pulled him in hook, line, and sinker on that one. So the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas distracted driving is a serious life-threatening practice that is preventable, and whereas distracted driving can result in injuries and deaths to all road users, motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists, and whereas distracted driving occurs when drivers divert their attention away from the task of driving to focus on another activity instead, and whereas the increased health and well-being of Ottawa citizens are a direct result of increased awareness about the dangers of distracted driving, and whereas in order to reduce the number of crashes as well as improve driver safety, Ottawa motorists should commit to adopting and maintaining safe behavior while behind the wheel. And now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas does hereby proclaim the month of April 2015 as National Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and urges all citizens to focus on the road and buckle up while driving. Signed this first day of April 2015 by Linda Reed, the mayor.
And I believe Mr. Dennis Tharp is going to accept this proclamation. I don't know, Dennis, if you have anything you want to say to us afterwards? You'll come up with something, right?
Thank you for putting this on the agenda. I believe there's nothing or not too much that we can do to make sure people are safe, whether it be our organization or whether it be the community as a whole. And it's often expressed to me that that we spend too much time telling other people how they should live their lives. And my response to that typically is, you know, it's okay how you live your life, but think about whose child or other family you may affect when you cause that accident or create that problem. And so let's continue to put safety out there so that everybody is in the forefront and we're taking care of our people.
Thank you, Mr. Tharp. The studies show the statistics go up almost on a daily basis for distracted driving accidents, so thank you for that. So that will put us back at item number 11, please.
Resolution in support of USD 290 school bond issue.
This is a resolution supporting the USD 290 Public School District's efforts and encouraging citizens to go to the polls on April 7th to support the propositions set out in the bond election. Students from Ottawa High School will also be present to express their support. So the podium and the speaker are yours, whoever wants, as many of you as want to come up. And if we could just have you tell us your name, please, and maybe what grade you're in.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm Bo Lynch, and I'm in 11th grade. I'm here supporting this bond as with my fellow students, and I'm here to ask that you adopt this resolution as it supports the USD 290 bond. And this bond contains items that allow us to become successful adults and community members. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
We don't have one other child that wants to speak? Nobody?
So I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution, and it states, whereas the proposed projects are for the betterment, safety, and welfare of the Ottawa, Franklin County community, and whereas the Ottawa City Commission is supportive of the USD 290 Public Schools efforts, and recognizes that the proposed bond projects will help meet the ongoing needs of the school system, its students, and the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved in the City Commission of the City of Ottawa and this resolution to hereby express support of the USD 290 Public School District's efforts and encourage the citizens of Ottawa and Franklin County to go to the polls on April 7th to support the propositions set out in the bond election benefiting all USD 290 students. I would also indicate that you can do advanced voting even now, so you don't have to wait till April 7th. If you want to do that, then that is okay too, and you can get your sticker, but you could also go ahead and vote now. I, at this point then, would entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner,
I move to approve the resolution as you so read.
is there a second?
I'll second. I think we'll all second. Won't we?
It has been moved and seconded to approve this resolution. Is there any discussion?
I think some people would wonder why the city would be talking about something that's happening with the school district, but so many of these issues really go throughout our community and are tied together. When we look at economic development, one of the big questions that always is asked is about our school system. And so we can go buy an industrial park and we can build it up, but if we don't have great schools, then we're not going to be drawing in those great corporations and industries into our community. So I think this is a exact reason why we've tried to work together as so much as a community, both the school district and the city, and also the county and other organizations. So I'm in support of this.
Any
I
other
just have
dis-
something to say, too. I think the promotion of now is really critical. I agree with that, not only with inflation factors figured into the building costs, but also how much the state contributes toward this. Right now, it's at 42%, and that goes away mid-year, is that right, Jeannie, to 27%? After June. And so that's quite a significant, sizable financial disparity there. So I really think that, yeah, if this is the time to do it, this is the time now, and I agree with your promotion of using the word now.
As I said in the candidates forum last week, I graduated from Ottawa High School and all the Ottawa schools, and am a proud graduate. I am concerned that our science classes are not up to date. They're the same science classes that I actually had when I was there, and well before I was there. And so because of that and many other issues, but more importantly, I want to make sure that our kids are equipped to walk out into the world, hopefully stay in Ottawa, but walk out into the world and give their absolute best and be the best citizens they can. And I think this bond makes that, gives them the tools to do so.
And just for my comments, I just want to say that I believe this is an investment in our community, and the return on your investment will be multi-fold for what we put into this. So I believe that we need this as a community to continue to improve and grow in our schools and in our community. So any other discussion? Then could I have the roll call vote, please?
How do you vote? Commissioner Kaler,
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore,
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Yes.
Mayor Reed.
I vote yes, the motion carries. I guess I could have asked for a vote of acclamation with that. So thank you. So we will move on to item number 12.
A request to approve kiosk project at City Hall.
City surveys, conducted indicate a strong interest for a kiosk at City Hall for 24-hour utility payments. Ms. Betty Simpson will do a presentation on this for the public.
Good morning, Mayor, and good morning,
morning.
Commissioners. Nice to see you today. I'm going to use the PowerPoint presentation that we saw a couple weeks ago and bring in a couple other points on that. First of all, I would like to recognize the team that worked together with me on this project. Paul Summer from IT is here. And then we also have Dave Hunsaker. I'm not sure he made it back. He had other obligations and was going to try to make it back this afternoon. And Cody Luke from Fire Department, all part of our team, and have done a great job with coordinating our project on this. We identified several problems relating to what a kiosk machine could do for us. Our payments are limited to after hours. And I'm going to adjust this slide just a second. I'm sorry. But
It got bumped when
There you go.
there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. When customers pay their bills, they can come into the desk between 8 and 5. That also gives them the option of paying online. Those are our main two options. We do have an ACH where customers can pay through their bill, where we automatically will debit their account on their due date. A lot of customers choose not to do those options and will use the Dropbox, we'll mail it in, other options. So we said, what can we do to better make this where all the community is seeing benefit for our payment options that we have? We did do a analysis through a survey, and the survey was both online as well as mailed out to customers who frequently used our kiosk. We found that the majority of those customers would prefer a location here at City Hall versus we did look at South Princeton area down by the Walmart where the new Price Chopper is going to be, and they highly came back in a survey consensus that down at City Hall would be their best location. There are several benefits that we see with the kiosk. We would eliminate the possibility of rush hour. We would recognize revenue faster when a customer pays their bill. It would hit their account immediately, and the customer would have a receipt immediately. There is a lower overhead allowing the redirection of staff. We will touch on that a little bit further. It's bilingual, and their methods of payments at the kiosk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, can be cash, credit card, money order, and I'm missing one of those, I'm sorry, cash, credit card, money order, and check. Thank you very much. We are recommending to purchase a kiosk and place it out where our Dropbox currently is located. An additional recommendation that comes along with this is to have a canopy that would be covering that, protecting the customer and also the employees as well as the kiosk itself. The columns that you see here, they pulled and used Kansas State Bank's kiosk canopy in order to make this where they could map it into our location here. You'll see those columns are square. One thing that they are doing with fashion is recommending that we put in a round column that would match our building here at City Hall and tie that in nicely to City Hall. The canopy is going to be safe, well lit for our customers coming through during the nighttime hours. We do know that we see our heaviest traffic during the nighttime. I can't say for sure if that's after 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock, but we know that we do have a big during the nighttime hours from when we close at 5 o'clock through the next morning. The canopies are built very strong, and it's going to provide very low maintenance. The biggest thing that I've seen and heard about is they were having to change out the lights, and that's an LED light, so it's going to have a very long life on that light as well. We did ask about the life of a canopy. They said well over 20 years. We've got several here in town that Fashion has done. The longest one is Casey's out on 7th Street, and that one has been over 20 years at that location. The Kansas State Bank down here on Main Street has been there for 13 years. The cost of the kiosk and then the total cost overall. The overall cost is $65,700. That is an estimated with numbers that we received on bids. $37,000 of that would be for the kiosk, and $6,143 of that is for the yearly maintenance. That is included in that $37,000. We would see that $6,000 as a repeated cost. There is also the $18,000 for the canopy. The remaining of the funds are going to be for an API, which is a application program interface, which would be with Tyler Technologies. We will have to do some cement work, some drilling to get the fiber optic through to the kiosk machine. And we also spoke with Scott Bird. He recommends that we do have the funding within the utilities. We would split that between percentage-wise. The highest percentage would be our electric department or our electric fund, and approximately 73% of the funds would come out of that. Scott presented to you guys on Monday evening and gave us a breakdown when I've gone into this a little bit further. The initial cost of the kiosk at $30,853 over 10 years would be $3,085.30 a year. Your annual fee of $6,147 for a net cost on the kiosk of $9,232.30 per year for 10 years. Granted, we would pay for that all initially, but if we could kind of spread that over the anticipated life. A kiosk actually has the possibility of lasting longer than that. The canopy should promote the life of the kiosk, and I have heard from our AdComp company that there has been a kiosk that they've had for over 17 years out there. We would hope to get that. We can't promise we're going to get that, of course. The canopy, 20-plus years, would actually spread out to about $900 a year. The kiosk, again, provides 24/7, 365-day a week at a cost of $10,132.30. That does include the cost of the canopy in there. If we would add an additional person in the front line at City Hall, that would be $31,200 plus benefits, which is a big cost difference, and that would be a yearly fee. What was the kiosk do for the city, for the finance department? It would allow the finance department to do an annual audit, CAPRS, which is a comprehensive annual financial report. It would allow us to redirect training for grant management. It would help us also to increase our bond rating if we're able to do these other things up above, put us in a better financial state, and would also provide opportunity for economic development in the funding side of that if we have that better bond rating. Are there any questions?
So Betty, just to clarify, the way you would be able to do those last things is by freeing up a frontline staff member and then to be able to utilize them for those other types of things.
That is correct. We would actually look at a frontline staff member being able to do the job of somebody that is in that front office, and then freeing up those people that are continually backing up those frontline people to be able to get additional training in. And some of that training is just fine-tuning some skills that we already have on that side.
Betty, I really appreciate your PowerPoint presentation. I wonder if you may be able to go back to like the third slide. Because I'm looking for some clarification on one, keep on going forward, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I lost count of where
Okay,
my slide was
so-
at.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, one
Keep
more?
on going, one more,
Again?
one more. One more. Right there. Okay, so I'm just doing some rough math, and
That's okay.
I recognize that I'm not, like the end of this counter.
You're not a banker.
No, I'm a social worker by trade. But if the kiosk costs $37,000 and the canopy costs $18,000, it doesn't equal the 65.7. Where are we at with that
Yes.
additional? Where does that additional money?
The remaining, I'm sorry, that kind of got loud. The
Yeah.
remaining of the funds on the third paragraph, and it's not broken out to what each of those items would cost. But the Tyler Technologies, the API, the drilling for the cabling to get over to the cement work, those items would make up the additional that totaled that $65,700.
Because we're looking at about $11,000 difference.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and all of those items, for anybody who's listening or anybody who wants to see this, all of those items would be captured within that third paragraph. That's what's actually all kind of encompassed in that additional $10,000, just to get it there.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Betty?
I know that the design part of it isn't really what the presentation was about, but I'm encouraged to see that, that when we are doing new projects, that we are looking at how it fits in with what's around it and just making sure it's pleasurable to see. So I'm encouraged by that. I will point out, when this project was first kind of brought to us, there was some conversation online that I had seen, and a lot of people were asking if it was really necessary and those type of things. I just want to point out that it's kind of interesting because those people having those conversations obviously have access to technology or smartphones of some sort like that. It's the people who don't have that access to smartphones or other technology at home and don't have that opportunity. Like you said, maybe they get off work at 5 and you guys are closed and they don't have access to a computer. They don't necessarily have time to go to a public computer at the library or something like that. So I think that's what we're trying to really say here. If I'm wrong, let me know, but you had said that some of the other communities that had installed these saw the most use by those with disabilities and the elderly. Is that correct?
That is correct. Tecumseh, Oklahoma has recently purchased within the last year a kiosk. Theirs is going to be, or theirs is actually set up a little bit different. Theirs is on the building, which the people are actually walking up to that. We are giving our customers a different option of being able to drive up to it, which should actually make it more user-friendly for many people.
More accessible.
More accessible, that's correct.
And I think the fact that you can use cash and money orders, people would be amazed at how many people actually do that. And so even if they had access to a computer, you cannot use the computer for cash and money orders. So this gives them that option.
That is correct.
Like you say, 24/7, 365 days a year, so.
Betty, you had alluded to this in your comments just a few minutes ago, but are there other communities that are actually doing this, or are we kind of blazing our own trail, or how does that work?
There are other communities. Most of those communities are in the South, Texas, California. We will be the first community in Kansas that has this company, and as far as I'm aware, a utility payment kiosk. The company we're looking at is AdComp, and they do not have anybody in Kansas. They're excited about this breakthrough getting into Kansas also.
And could you also discuss, there might be down the road some other possibilities of other uses for this kiosk in terms of other payment?
Absolutely.
Just the discussions we had.
The courts was one of the options that we actually looked at, and we are going to maybe continue to look at that, but we don't see the volume through their Dropbox side of things. Most of the people in courts tend to go see the judge to discuss their issue with them and then pay their fine versus paying their fine up front.
Right.
But that may be something that...
But maybe down the road, a
Down the
typical
road.
speeding ticket or a
That's
parking
right.
ticket or that type of thing, you might be able to pay it that
Yes.
way as well if we went that route type of thing. So.
Other options that we could possibly would explore would be any of the types of payments through planning and codes, accounts receivable. Again, we would need to look at numbers and can we feasibly make this happen?
Right.
Yes.
I had a question, Betty, on the $6,000, I don't remember what that was called, was it maintenance and?
It is a
contract?
maintenance, yes.
Is that locked in for the 10 years at that rate, or do you know if it's adjustable after 2 or 3 years?
They have quoted it to us for that 10 years.
Okay.
Now, that
So
doesn't mean that,
It's a flatline cost, okay.
Right.
All right. All right, thanks.
You know, I want to applaud you, Betty, and your whole group, really. Paul and Dave, and I'm missing one.
Cody Luke.
Okay, and Cody. You know, if the general public doesn't know, Betty and the individuals that are presenting this is one of 3 presentations that we saw out of an internal leadership group, all individuals that work here at the City of Ottawa that took some extra time out of their day and became part of our very first internal leadership group. And so I am so proud of you and actually the whole leadership group for thinking about what can I do better to make the citizens' life better, easier, and how can we work smarter? And so bravo to you and to your group and really to the whole entire internal leadership class. We are proud to have you working here at the City of Ottawa and welcome many additional ideas and know that they'll come our way.
Well, thank you very much. I would also like to thank the commission, Richard, city leaders, because of they're the ones that saw the vision of training up our newer employees with succession training, because we do recognize that there is a change that's coming across to the city, to the public in general, and taking that step to recognize that we need to do that is very important.
Yeah, very true, very much true. Okay, then I think that we are ready for a motion, please.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner.
I move that we approve the request in item 12 to approve the kiosk project at City Hall.
And is there a second?
I wholeheartedly second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the request for kiosk project at City Hall to move forward. Is there any discussion?
I've just got a few comments myself. I've gone back and forth on this several times, to be honest with you, over the last few weeks. And I know it'll only benefit is if it's used heavily, and that's kind of an unknown. We don't know how heavily it will be used. If we build it, will they come? That's kind of what, I'm not sure on that just yet. Yeah, maybe you put it in the middle of a cornfield, that might help. But that's what I'm trying to determine, have we exhausted all of our communication methods to the people on how they can pay their bills, for like the auto debit from the bank account. If they want to pay with cash, they can go to the post office or Walmart, Price Chopper, get a money order for less than $1 if they didn't want to stand in line. And then some people just like the personal contact. Now, we have an ATM at our bank. It's more competitively driven than anything else. I don't care for them myself, but some people like them. We've got to have them to compete with other banks in town. But we still have people who still come into the bank, want to get cash for their check, and walk out. They like that personal connection. And so you still have that population out there that may walk right past this or drive right past to come in and pay their bill anyway. I'm still trying to get past the $65,000. Still a lot of money that we're dealing with. This is taxpayer money we're dealing with, of course. But I'm just having a hard time wrapping my brain around that cost benefit at price point at this time. So I do plan to vote against it, but I don't want that to diminish my appreciation for your committee, Betty, for you and Dave and Paul. You've done an excellent job in presenting your case. Presented so well. Like I said, I've gone back and forth several times on this issue, and I know really it's been a difficult one. I can see your very compelling arguments in favor of it. I just wonder if maybe not now, if maybe we postpone this and wait another year or two, see if another city in Kansas operates one, get their opinion, see how it works, kind of learn from their mistakes or what they like. And so when I say I'm planning to vote no, it's not forever, it's just not now.
I wonder if our Director of Finance, Scott Berg, can address, I don't know that there is taxpayer money that's being used. I thought we were using part of the electric utility Am I wrong?
It will be utility monies, not necessarily
So
tax monies,
user.
but it's still public money. I mean,
Yeah.
to the commissioner's point, it is.
I should have said public.
It is public monies.
But it's not derived from taxes that we are actually, or that we are receiving from citizens. It comes out of our electric fund.
It would come out of the electric fund, the water.
So only individuals who have electricity and are citizens that are using electricity in the city of Ottawa, it's part of that user.
Electric, water, sewer, and to a very small degree, our stormwater utility. Stormwater utility would contribute about 2%. The electric department would definitely be the largest contributor, and I base that on the annual revenues from last year. And so, as Betty indicated, about 73% would come from the electric utility. Water and sewer would be an even 12.5%, with the remainder of, like I said, 2% coming out of the stormwater utility. I'm going to ask Betty a question.
I'd like to speak.
Yeah, okay. In regards to Tecumseh's experience, but before I step back, I'm going to quote our city manager. But I do also want to mention that we have had some internal discussions on the cost of the canopy, and then I visited with Betty yesterday in regards to what we might be able to do to reduce those costs. We certainly don't. We certainly want it to look like something we can all be proud of, and we want it to attract attention to those that use our services. I will tell you, I was standing in the HR director's office yesterday visiting with the interim director, and as I was standing there, I was looking out the window and watched two people come through the drive-through and pay their bill. They didn't come inside. They paid their bill by dropping a check, and of course that's their only option. Well, they can drop cash. We asked them not to, but probably dropped a check. One of them was walking a great big dog, would not probably have felt comfortable with coming in, and we wouldn't have felt very comfortable with him bringing his great big dog in. But I thought, there's one that what we're trying to do would meet their needs, whether he had a check or a credit card or whatever, that would meet that person's needs. But anyway, it's just kind of a delight to see somebody using that facility, and we expand that opportunity for people to take care of their own business so much more with this unit. But during Monday's study session, and it was on a different topic, but our city manager said we can't expect to continue to do business in the same way that we've been doing it. And I think this is a huge step into the future that will allow us to do business in a different direction. Thank you.
And just my comment along that line is, because I'm like Mike, I've gone back and forth with it, but I've seen in my own line of work, sometimes you have to shift people, their roles into different ways of doing business. And I see this as being one way of doing that. You're taking that person one of those people that had been doing that frontline work and moving them into different work. And you won't move them completely 100% out of that role, for sure.
No,
but you might free up some of their time to be able to do other
That's
tasks.
exactly right. We will always, as long into the foreseeable future, we will always have somebody
People
on the
there,
front
yes.
line taking payments, working directly with the citizens. However, if we can free up some of their time,
Yeah.
then we can get them to some advanced training so that they can be dealing with higher level finance issues, which we need to be training some folks up. We're taking those efforts right now, but it puts stress on everybody at this time. If we take our backups away and send them to training, and we've been doing some of that, that leaves two people to run that front counter for the whole day, and sometimes that means buying their lunch so they can continue to work a 9-hour shift.
Right. And Betty, I think you had.
I was going to respond in regards to how do we know they're going to use it, if we put that in. Tecumseh specifically, when they put that in, at first, they didn't have very many people using it, but their numbers have grown, and they've got, 100 people using that versus their initial 20 people that started out using it.
Went up by 5.
They started and they left their Dropbox in for 3+ months, and they were just getting ready to take it out when we did our presentation a month ago. And when they were getting ready to take it out, they had very, very few people using that drop box. They had all migrated over to, and not all of them. You still had, a few of them that had not migrated over. When we've talked to AdComp about the companies in California, and we talked to one of it was a bigger city in California. I don't remember the specific city, but when we talked to one of the gentlemen there, they had actually moved their city hall location, and they had placed 3 kiosks within the city, and people used those kiosks as their primary. Now, I'm not asking that our customers use that kiosk. We need that customer service. You need that one-on-one. But when somebody's in a hurry and they want to have something that they can do without having the option of being disconnected because they didn't pay their bill on time, and I could get there at 9 o'clock at night, but all I have is my credit card, and I don't use a computer, this will allow those customers to be able to do those kind of things. And the numbers, we don't know for sure how many at City Hall will start with using that, but I do anticipate that we will see that number grow. Yes, and there is the part too that it does post immediately to the account. When the person dropped off their payment with their dog yesterday, Scott asked, what's different? And I said, Scott, that posts to their account immediately. I said, we know when they make that payment that it's on their account. Had it been during a cutoff process or anything, that payment immediately hitting the account, we're going to know that. So,
Thank you.
A couple quick thoughts I had. One was, we've heard from the finance department recently on several things you guys are doing to collect more using technology, using swipers in the field to collect with a credit card or a debit card. And I know that that's always something you guys are trying to do, finding new ways to collect those bills that are due. So I think this goes right along that line. To address Commissioner Skidmore's comments, I definitely see his financial viewpoint there. I'm kind of lost track of where I was going here. What he mentioned about allowing another community to do this, but sometimes I believe we have to be the community to step out, do our due diligence as far as doing our research, but being the community that steps out on an idea, and we're going to be the first one. We may have some things that don't go right that we can learn from and improve, but if we want to be a leader both regionally within our state, within our nation, as a great community, sometimes we are going to be the one that comes up with a great idea, that researches it, and then is willing to step out in faith and do this. So I'm in support of this.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Play Task when they went up and did their presentation, and our IT department did put together that information for them. When we went, Scott and I went to the Kansas GFOA conference last fall, Topeka was there, and they were excited about their finance department and what they were able to do within their finance department. Total change in their accounting procedures, doing things that were just exciting in the finance realm that may not be exciting to people in the other realm, but it was exciting to hear and to see the excitement behind them. And as I watched the people in our finance department, the excitement of coming to work each day and, what's new on our plate and how can we best help our customers, this is just another piece of best helping our customers. Thank you.
I know that we've had some lengthy conversation here. However, I do want to bring up that, and I know that the public doesn't necessarily hear what we do at study session, but on Monday I did bring up the idea that, I consider myself a young mom. And, 10 years ago when I had, actually less than 10 years because she's not even 10 yet, when I had a brand new baby, I knew every single drive-through in this town. Because when you are a new mom, you know where you can get a tea, where you can you know where you can pick up your prescriptions, you know everywhere you can go because you don't want to disturb that young person. And I have used Commissioner Dickinson as an example because he has a new young member to his family. And sometimes you're out at 11:30 at night and you are so busy, you've just forgotten, you've done everything else to help make sure that new little person is taken care of, and you get that eureka moment, I forgot to pay my bill. And so you can put your child in that car while you're driving around, hopefully they're sleeping, and pay your bill. Or you broke your leg and you can't get in. Or you've got something going on, you brought your dog. There's many reasons that we could use this, so it's a good thing.
Any further discussion?
I had one more question on the cash payment. If I understand it right, if the bill is like $90.05, you put in $91 and you lose the 95 cents, basically. From a compliance standpoint, because we couldn't get away with that at the bank if we were doing something like that, and I would assume inside you couldn't do that.
Actually,
Is that okay? Is some compliance issue we'd have to deal with to get past that?
we don't lose it, but what they would do would be carry 5 cents to their next statement.
So
Yes,
it's
so-
90 and
Credit.
$90.05, then and they paid 91, then 95 cents would go credit to the next.
They would be credited,
That
yes,
clarifies.
depending on which, if they only paid the 90, then the 5 cents would
So
carry
it's not
over to the
lost.
next statement, or
Okay.
the credit the
Very
opposite
good,
way,
thank you.
yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we're not putting people's money in our pocket.
Good question.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but if I might just put in my nickel's worth here.
Irony noted.
Yeah, all right. And I just to start out that I won't be using this kiosk because I use electronic bill pay and level bill pay, and so I have a similar amount coming out of my account monthly, and it's just easier to get the bills paid and so forth. But I know there is an element or a segment of our customers, utility customers, that will be using this. And a few years ago, we spent we had an energy audit performed in our community, and we have adopted several of the aspects of that energy audit, such as different light fixtures and switches and so forth that conserve energy and conserve our resources in that matter. And I had similar thoughts to Mike during the discussion of this, but then when the finance director of the department had mentioned that being able to use technology to free up time of our employees to perform other functions, that's really kind of the kicker that got me into this. In the banking world, we look at foreign ATM fees and so forth to help pay for the cost of it, and actually it's an extension of the teller line and so forth for convenience. This I'm looking at is being able to use the efficiency of technology to free up time and prevent us from having to hire other employees for that function. The emphasis is going to be on the finance director to being able to redivert those employee hours to those functions and use them for the benefit of what we're talking about doing. So I will be voting in favor of it, but I was just looking at it from a different viewpoint. So.
Any further discussion? Okay, thank you, Betty. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
No.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
I vote yes, the motion passes. That will move us to item 13.
A request to approve agreement with Vive Broadband.
This is an amendment to the video service authorization in anticipation of expiration of the city franchise for cable television service, which will expire on April 6th of this year. And Mr. Bezick, our city attorney, will discuss this.
Good morning,
Good
Commissioner.
morning.
Before you have an agreement to be executed. It is part of the franchising authority of the city that has been somewhat superseded by the franchising authority of the state. In previous years, we would be approving a franchise agreement between Vive and this particular city, a specific contract for this locale, as would every other city that does business with Vive in the state, and there's specific statutory authority for that. A number of years ago, I want to say 5 years ago, the Kansas legislature, allowed for statewide franchising authority whereby a company like Vive would get franchising authority through the Kansas Corporation Commission, and we would be obligated through that statutory scheme to execute an agreement in accordance with the statute that complies with that statewide franchising. This allows the company the benefit of essentially having one form that goes across the state and simplifies their process. It has somewhat of a deleterious effect on the city in that we're not able to do specific things for the citizens of Ottawa. Nonetheless, this is the process that's before us. The franchise agreement that you have is in compliance with state law and the KCC regulations, and I recommend that you approve it.
Any questions for Mr. Basic? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion. We'll go ahead and approve item 13 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the amendment with Vive Broadband for the video service authorization. Is there any discussion?
I also make a comment real quick. I know that you've mentioned this is pretty much a relatively simple agreement that we've kind of moved forward. And I know a lot of people that we've talked to in the city work or use Dish or some other satellite service. For those citizens that do use this, though, I know several, about a year ago, I think, that several channels were taken away, not replaced. As far as I know, bills didn't go down. I'm one of those that does not have this service, but I haven't heard bills going down. So I do think that it's always good for our people in our city to have the best options. As you said, though, we don't really have any kind of way to go about making these changes because of now the state takes care of this. But I'll be voting no, not necessarily just against this agreement, but just more of a statement of that I think that our citizens should be given the best services possible.
I understand that. Almost everything that you brought up, Commissioner Dickinson, are areas that the city has absolutely no control. Prior to this process, we were preempted by federal regulations from dealing with the content and business practices of a cable television provider. What limited abilities we had would be in areas of customer service, which is what we put into our franchise agreements. That's been taken away from us now as well. It's an old refrain, and you've heard me say it before, is that when a lot of the citizens believed that because we had a franchise agreement, we had authority to tell cable providers what to provide, how to provide, pricing information and all that. And the simple fact is we never did. We certainly don't now because we're essentially approving a form and an agreement that goes through the state that's mandated by the state. And again, we're one level of jurisdiction removed from that as well, so we're even more distant. I understand your concern. I used to look in the mail every January for that 5% increase that was I used to get from the cable provider as well. I understand your frustration.
Any other discussion? I guess I would entertain a motion then.
I think we
Okay, I lost where we were at. So it is moved and seconded, that's right, to approve this agreement with Vive Broadband. Any other discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
How do you vote? Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
No.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you.
My thanks to the commission. And I would note parenthetically, just on a matter of personal satisfaction, one of the first things I did when I came to town was negotiate with Fashion Inc. For them to come to town. It was pleasing to see that our kiosk is going to go through Fashion Inc. One of the success stories of our industrial park and certainly a member of our industrial community. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. That will move us to item 14, which is report by city manager. He's taken the podium. It must be important.
Well, Commissioners, I don't know if I remember in almost 8 years, 2 votes that are 4-1, but that's okay. It is important that you have those discussions. I'm proud of you, and your citizens ought to be proud of you. It is important that they see you having those discussions up here. I was sitting there thinking about how civil the discussion was. We could probably put a seminar on for the legislature, and I'll be seeing if they want us to come up there and do that, or we can give them our tape. But civility in government at all levels is lacking. But I am proud that at the local government level, we still believe that's important, even when we disagree, and we do our business and we move on. So thank you very much. But that's not why I came up here, to give you a homily on civility. Mary Beth, would you please come here? This is Mary Beth Bush's first and last city commission meeting. Mary, I was able to have an opportunity a couple of weeks ago. Mary Beth is a former administrative services manager at Gardner and has, in essence, had HR duties, and she has HR experience. So I was able to sit down with Mary Beth through a conversation with Melissa, and she has been filling in as interim director for us for 2 weeks and 2 days. 2 days. So Mary Beth will be ending her interim this Friday, and our new HR director will come in Monday. I want to thank you very much. She has made a great connection with our staff, and our staff has made a great connection with her. And it has been nice to have a third party from outside look at our organization, and it is always helpful to hear how people see our organization from the outside. But I want to thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you doing this. So.
Thank you, Richard. I shared with him that I believe that you all have something very special here at the City of Ottawa, both internally in your organization, how your leadership staff and the employees, I haven't met everyone, but the ones I have met all work together, your leadership from Mr. Neinstead, and then being out in your community. And as I told you, I've visited your downtown. This is a beautiful, beautiful community, and you all really have something special. As he stated, watching this commission work today and the civility in your conversations is very refreshing, and again, something very special. And so I applaud all of you, and I wish the City of Gardner great success. This has been a fantastic opportunity for me. I look forward to it, and I will be back to visit your great community. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you.
We thank you as well.
The pink suitcase is one of her favorites.
Sales tax.
I also want to follow up on an issue we talked about on Monday, and the theme we talked about, and that's voting. When I got up this morning, I was going to wear my tie that was an American tie, but it's in need of repair, and Rita was already gone this morning. So I put on my U.S. Air Force tie with American flag on it because we have an election coming up next Tuesday. There are people in other countries that die to have the privilege to vote, that when they don't know if they're going to live when they show up at the voting booth or not. When they come out of that booth, they don't know if they're going to be ambushed. And it is something I think that we take somewhat lackadaisical. I know we take lackadaisical in this country. We have people stationed around this country, in this country, 24/7, who protect our right to be free, who protect our right to have disagreements, who protect our right to have robust public policy discussions. And the least that we can do to honor them is to vote. And our next election is April 7th, and that is a week from yesterday, and it is a spring election, and people will be voting on city commission, city commissioner slots, school board slots, and a $64 million bond issue put forth by USD 290. Now, it's really not important how you think about those issues. The important thing is that you go into that booth and you register how you feel about your community, and you do that to honor people who have, for the entire history of this country, have been willing to stand up and say it is important that we have an opportunity to have a free voice in how our government's run. I would tell you that this is likely, it appears to be so, that this is the last spring election we will be voting in. There's a conference committee at the legislature now talking about changes in how we do our local elections. And it would appear that we're going to go to the fall. We're going to go to even years. And if you can believe this, we likely will be at the top of the ballot before the president and before the governor. And we will be the first, if the bill stays intact the way it is, we will be the first ones on the ballot. Now, we'll see how that works, okay? But what I am pretty sure of is that this will be the last spring election that you will be voting in until the legislature changes it again. So I would encourage all of our citizens, if you are registered to vote, you can vote. If you're not registered to vote, shame on you, go get registered for the next election, because there will be another election this year. There'll be an election September 1st. It is a mail ballot election asking for a renewal of the city's half-cent sales tax and approval of another half-cent to help with economic development infrastructure at our new industrial park. So that will be mail ballot, but you have to be registered to vote. So once again, my message is get out and vote. There's an election next week. You can go down now. You can advance vote. There is really no reason why you can't find the time to do it. So thank you.
Okay, that will move us to reports by city commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner Jorgensen.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Richard, for your comments. I think I've talked in the past about my grandmother voting Laverne, Meyer, Smith, and she told me when she was in her early 70s, and I was 18, and I think I missed an election. And she asked me if I voted. I said, no, I didn't make it down. And she guilted me. She said, here I am, 72 years old. I have never missed an election in my life, you know, from the time that I have. And so I'm on a streak now. Ever since then, I have voted in every election that I could. And I've been registered to vote in 2 states, Kansas and Nebraska.
At the same time?
Not at the same time. But it was always a duty to be informed on issues, be informed on the candidates, and your vote does make a difference. I've had a former city commissioner tell me one time that he lost an election with 200 more votes than I received when I won an election. So it is important, and it does have a big impact on the future of our community when you vote. So get out, vote early, vote often. So that's all I have this morning.
Commissioner Skidmore.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Kaler.
I actually have a couple things. Along the election theme, I tell the story every time I think just about every time there's an election, but I am so proud to have grown up in this community. And one of the best things that I do now, but I actually learned it from my parents, was that every time there's an election, we go to City Hall. It doesn't matter. And we are there till every single vote is counted. And it is the best way that I have taught my kids about why democracy is so important and why the right to vote is so important. So I would invite every person who's hearing my voice to go to City Hall on Tuesday. The second the polls close, go to City Hall. My kids know that there's cookies there, so that's probably why they go. But they do know they know when ballots come in, they know when the boxes come in, they watch those votes go up on there, and we talk about the importance of why it's so important that every vote counts. So I would welcome you to come down to the courthouse just as soon as the polls close and watch those ballots come in and watch every vote be counted. I think it's just a really powerful thing that you can do, not only for yourself, but for your child and for your grandchildren and for the future of our community. Second thing, I was humbled to actually, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this was my very first time, but last week I actually delivered Meals on Wheels for the very first time. And I am, as many of you know, and hopefully many people that hear this, I am a social worker by trade, and I was reminded when I went through that hour plus long activity of bringing meals to our citizens that every citizen counts, and every citizen has value. Every person has value. And I was just truly humbled by that experience. So if you would all have a chance, I would encourage you to volunteer somewhere, volunteer with Meals on Wheels, volunteer and give your time to others.
Commissioner Dickinson.
As City Manager Neinstead mentioned, civic involvement or community involvement of our citizens has kind of been a theme this week throughout, I think, the community. We've read about it in the paper, and I've been hearing lots of people talk about it. It often comes up around election time that we hear that. But I think this morning what happened here also has to do with that. It's okay to address things that we disagree on and have communication and not have 5-0 votes on everything that's on the agenda. So it's okay to once in a while have those topics. And I think the more we have those, the more the citizens want to be engaged. They feel like there is a voice for both sides. And so I say that we, regardless of what happens on this election on Tuesday, that the city continues to move towards things that can draw two sides in and have them come and have conversations and make sometimes hard decisions that move our community forward.
Under reports by mayor, a lot of the comments that have been made this morning are similar to what I've been thinking about. I heard a presentation last weekend from a couple of women attorneys who are on the Kansas Supreme Court that talked about how judges in Kansas are appointed, and the process about when we vote for judges, they're at the very bottom of the ballot, and most people, they talked about voter dropout. By the time when it's a lot of people and a lot of issues on a ballot, by the time you get to that point, people just quit marking, or they'll just mark no, 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 or whatever. And I guess it really struck me how many times people are uneducated. So my plea would be, you still have time to get out there and get yourself educated about the candidates and about the issues. So don't go in uneducated and just mark a box. Make sure you know what you're voting, and it's extremely important. It's just as important to do that as it is to get out there and vote, because a bad vote is sometimes worse than no vote at all. So I would encourage you to do that. I see all the flowers coming up in the wonderful corners downtown on our main street, and I want to appreciate all the people. If you go to the Facebook page, Ottawa Main Street Association, you will see a list of all the different businesses and individuals who work on those, along with the city employees that work on those corners, and I hope that we can all appreciate those. It reminds me always of Easter that's coming up this weekend. So with that, I'd like to wish everyone a great Easter weekend, and remember what Easter, the whole reason that we even have Easter and what it's all about is the resurrection of Jesus, that's for certain. So with that, I would give you announcements that are on your agenda there. We will have a special call meeting with a time change as far as our April 15th meeting. That will be at 7 p.m. With the reorganization of the City Commission, with the reception immediately following for the mayor, new mayor. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner,
I move that we adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We are adjourned.